Morning, everybody, and welcome back to the Brass Bench. This is our ongoing conversation about brass instrument manufacture, maintenance, modification, and repair. I'm Dave Weiner. You can find out everything you want to know about the show at www.thebrassbench.com or on our Facebook page of the same name. This is a conversation. I hope you'll join in. Use the chat bar. On the, I guess that's the right of your screen. Use the chat bar, type in your questions or comments there. We're monitoring that. To my left, your right, Ken Pope of Pope Instrument Repair. Ken's our guest today. Today's going to be pretty much about interviewing Ken and what he does. If you have other questions, you don't want to join in with the chat, you can send them to you guys at thebrassbench.com. That's our email address. It's not very interactive, but we'll read your comments, and we will answer your questions at some point on the air. So, as I said, this is Ken Pope. Hi, Ken. Morning.
Morning, Dave.
How you doing? Great. So, sorry, everybody, for the little bit of the late start there. We doing the techie thing and got everything going. Now, everything's doing great. I still am waking up. I have to have some more coffee. You're not going to have any coffee?
I already did. If I have any more, I'll be back. We'll be taking a lot of breaks.
Yeah. Well, if we have to take a break, we have to take a break. So normally we have a soft opening to the show. Give everybody a chance to settle in, get their live streams up and running. We have a little bit of a lag here, so if you type a question, please don't feel offended that I don't answer right away. But the soft opening is usually some sort of brass news. I'm going to let you all know that there are various gatherings these weeks hosted by the international societies of various brass lines this weekend. In fact, today is the last day, or this penultimate day, I don't know which one, of the International Trumpet Guild Conference in Anaheim, California. Chris Cromer, who's normally with us, or should normally be with us, is not with us because he's actually exhibiting at ITG. No, he's not. No, he's with us. He's just no longer like right here. Yeah. So Chris is coming back next week. He's going to give us a report on ITG. This week is also, I think it's, yes, it was over. It's over today, I think. ITEC 2016, International Tuba Euphonium Conference. That's at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville. ITG was in Anaheim, California. I think at the Hyatt Regency. And coming up this week, the International Trombone Festival 2016. It's going to be June 8th through the 11th. It's at Juilliard. Is it at Juilliard every year? Do you know?
I don't follow.
Ken's a horn guy. What can I say? And then after that, now here you will be interested to know. After that, we're going to have the International Horn Symposium. You know about that, right? You ever hear of that? It's going to be hosted this year at Ithaca College in Ithaca, New York, and that's going to be June 13th through 18th. So there we go. Jacob Ken's coffee. He's already had plenty of coffee. He swears that he swears that if he has any more coffee, he's going to be doing unfortunate things on air. So I already had to calm him down. I had to pull him off the ceiling. Apparently, coffee affects him a little bit more than it affects me. I still have to get my heart started. So. Anyway, welcome to you, Ken Pope.
Well, I'm happy to be here. I'm amazed to see such a range.
Okay, well, you keep saying that. I think my shop is dirty. I think my shop is rather disheveled. But apparently, your shop is even dirtier and more disheveled than my shop is.
It's got its own organizational technique.
So, is that some sort of like organizational chaos? Is that what we're talking about here?
Yeah, Tess would focus on the chaos.
Okay. So Tess is Ken's wife, in case anybody wants to know that. So is it just like whatever you have to do, you just grab the next project and get going? Or?
Yeah, they kind of pile up on my
Is it like archaeology? You have to like get the customer stuff by layers, kind of thing?
pretty much whoever's the squeaking wheel.
The squeaky. So now everybody knows that. Pro tip. You want your work done, you got to squeak it, Ken. Get that wheel squeaking away. So, I mean, are you like me? Because when I start working on a project, I mean, I start grabbing tools, right? And as I use a tool, I set it down like right next to myself. And then I grab another tool and I use it and I set it down. And the next thing I know, I've got this like little mountain of tools
Well, see,
all in one spot.
the difference is I set it down and immediately it's lost. It's true. I mean, I sit there and I think, okay, work, set it down to my right. Work, set it down to my right. And I look and nothing.
And you can't find it.
I don't know where it went.
Especially stuff, I find especially like with my everybody's got a go-to screwdriver, right? Yeah, I mean, it's one that you've had forever.
Well, I have 4 because the others are all lost.
Right, well, exactly. That was exactly my point. Is that, you know, you're working, and it's the screwdriver you use over and over and over, and you set it down, and then you have to spend 10 minutes finding it. And it's like, I know it's here. It's got a yellow top. I've got to be, and you can't find it. How does that happen? That's like some black hole of bench tools. So I'm glad to hear that other people have the same problems I have in the shop. Now, I know some technicians keep their shops just absolutely orderly, immaculate. It's like a chef.
I hear
Like mise en place, you know. It's like everything is right where it goes. You don't even have to look to grab your tool.
Yes, I'll
It's
have
an
to ask.
illness.
Steve Lewis tells me that his is.
Okay, Steve. Kudos to you, Steve, because honestly, I don't live like that. So let's get a little background about you.
Okay.
So you're a horn,
Yes.
and you always have,
Yep.
and you studied horn performance.
Actually, I started on horn and then moved to tuba for a little bit, and then saw the light.
Okay. So, and you went to Oberlin,
Yep.
and after Oberlin, then
After Oberlin, I
Excuse me,
figured I
sorry.
wasn't going to be waltzing out of college into an orchestral job, so I contacted at that time Red Wing. It's got a new name.
it's Minnesota. I think it's like Minnesota State Technical College,
Something
Red
like
Wing.
that,
It's in Red Wing, Minnesota.
And it's instrument. They have a luthier program, and a band instrument program, lots of other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And loved it. I was there for 9 months.
When
and
was that?
1982.
Wow. So this is like right after undergraduate school.
I
I did not know that.
But while I was there, I was actually doing it.
So this is a 1-year program, right? And they still have this program going on. I think it's one of the very few actual certificate programs left in instrument repair, or whatever programs. Yeah, I mean it's one of the very few like instructional programs, and it's comprehensive, right?
Yeah, you get out of it what you put in. I mean,
Okay,
and
but it's
all-
not just brass.
No, but I focused mainly on that.
Okay.
But it's funny because eventually, when I went into business on my own, 28 years ago, I started doing saxophones.
Saxophones are great. They break a lot.
Got too many sharp parts.
You ever have a saxophone? I love the ones with the blue needle springs
Yeah,
on it.
exactly.
Like, and you take all the keys off. It's like it's got these thorns on it. And then you reach over the sax to grab a tool, and next you lift your arm, and you have
the
a saxophone
sax-
hanging off your arm.
Yep. So, but anyhow, so I after I left there, I went and worked in a shop in Wilmington, Delaware, Musically Sound, owned by David Keith.
Really?
Yeah, and while I
Take
was,
note, Chris Cromer.
that's-
I don't know if that's even there.
I don't know if it is still or not. So I stayed there a year, and then moved back to Boston, where I worked at Osmond Brass for about 5 or 6 years, and then opened my own shop.
5 or 6 years at Bob's shop. Okay, cool. So now we're talking the 90s, roughly. Late 90s?
I
Is that
opened
where
my
I'm
shop
getting it?
in '89 is when I opened my shop.
Really?
Yeah.
That long ago? I did not know that. So this has always been out of your house?
Yep.
Okay, and it still is. Jamaica Plain,
Still
Massachusetts.
is, yep.
So is Jamaica Plain actually part of Boston?
It is.
Or?
It's on the subway lines. Boston is all these different little areas. You've got South Boston, East Boston, Jamaica Plain, Roxbury. There's about 6 or 7 little boroughs.
Enclaves, boroughs, is that, yeah, okay.
JP used to, Jamaica Plain, it used to
JP.
be where all the musicians lived, and then it got a little too expensive. So.
I see. So this is where you still are. You've been in this location for how long now?
We bought that house in 1990s when we bought that house.
1990. Wow, that's when we bought this house. Yeah. Wow. So you've been there for quite a while, and you are. Do you focus on horn, or do you do all brass instruments?
I actually do all winds. I still
All
do
winds. You
woodwinds.
still do woodwinds.
Minus double reeds.
Yeah.
My specialty is brass, though.
That's kind of the way I am, but I gave up the woodwinds last year.
I'm thinking of doing that.
Yeah, well, see, here's why I gave it up. Is I used to have racks of pads in like little, drawer units on the wall, just bunches of them, and I realized that I only had a few woodwind customers left. Because back when I had the retail location, I used to have a lot of woodwind customers, and I used to do wholesale work as well, and
your microphone, it needs to be like
Closer?
yeah, or not even that. Like you're kind of speaking away from it.
yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. By the way, everybody, that was Adam, my son Adam Weiner, our director. So if you hear his voice, sort of like the voice of God, that's Adam talking. Adam will jump in and ask questions from time to time, and or tell us what to do. We want this to be a nice environment, nice safe environment for everybody to hear what we have to say. So anyway, thank you, Adam. Thank you for that. So I realized I had very few customers. I was like, you know how many pads you have to keep in stock.
I've got
Like
drawer, and they're
drawers,
expensive.
and they're expensive. I mean, you have to keep thousands and thousands of dollars of pads. And I was going to refill the pads, and I said to myself, I'm placing a multi-$100 pad order for a few customers.
Yeah.
Because really, there are certain sizes that you use a lot. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. So I sold all of that stuff to an aspiring technician.
Chris?
No.
No.
I don't know if I should say her name on the air without asking her if I can.
That's-
But I can tell you she's in the Winston-Salem area, and she's going to, I believe, have her own shop. So if I get permission to say her name on the air, I will. But until I do, I won't. So back to Ken. So you do, but you still do technically do work. Does Tess works with you?
She started a couple years ago. Yep.
What does she
does
do for you?
All the ordering, all the filling of orders. She kind of whips me into shape down there.
Well, somebody needs
Or
to.
tries.
Clearly. So you're working there, and you're also gigging.
Mm-hmm.
So what percentage of your time is like
It
gig
used,
versus?
Yeah, it used to be.
Good morning, Diane. Diane Bruce says good morning.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
It used to be about 70% gigging and 30% repair. And over the last couple of years, I've been turning down a lot of the playing work. In fact, the last 2 years, I didn't accept really much of any gigs, but now I'm back into
Well,
it
you
again.
toured for a while, didn't you?
A long time, yeah.
Which shows did you tour with?
First show was called Me and My Girl, and
Mm-hmm.
then I toured with the music of Andrew Lloyd Webber for 3.5 years or so.
Sorry about that.
Actually, that was a fun gig because it was,
Was
a
it?
full orchestra on stage.
Wow.
And we went all over the world. Well, we went to Australia and Japan. We played, and it was a national tour, so that we never stayed any place for less than 2 weeks. So
Nice.
it was rather than one night stand.
And was Tess touring with you, or
She was.
did you have kids at this point?
No, we were just practicing.
Practice. So, did practice eventually make perfect? Of course it did.
Of course.
Kids are great. They're a lot of work, but they're great. So anyway, but your kids are grown,
Yep.
and so now, I'm not going to go there. I'm just not going to go there. I'm not going to go there. So you are, you toured, and then when did you decide I'm just going to concentrate on doing
The shop?
the shop? Yeah.
It's always a juggling act because when you're playing a lot, then you're kind of like, oh, I want to be working more in the shop. And then when you're working more in the shop, you want to be playing more. So,
Right.
So it's just finding a good balance.
Right.
And also, as I get older, I like staying home more.
Right. Well,
You know, I no more of these 2-hour drives for a gig. you
yeah, I know.
so-
That's a hell of a thing.
Yeah.
So you concentrate. So would you say, is it fair to say that your concentration is horn though?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So you are very well known in the horn world. In fact, people call you people call your shop the Vatican.
Yeah, that's
People go to the Vatican.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't know Ken's shop, Ken has a lot of horns in his shop. He's got new and used horns.
Mm-hmm.
How many horns do you have in your shop?
oh man, last count it was well over 120 or something.
Over
like that.
120 horns. So if you want to try a horn, you really should
It's,
buy a plane ticket to Boston.
I believe it's the world's largest collection of horns.
By collection, you mean for sale.
Yes. Yeah.
You're not just collecting them. Some people do.
Well, Tess says I am.
So how many new lines of new horns? Tell me about the lines of new horns you get. Because consignment horns, you just get whatever you get, right?
Right.
Somebody comes in and says, I really want to sell this horn, and either they're buying a new horn or they just have too many horns or whatever, but they're selling it for whatever reason. And you get what you get. But you choose new lines of horns.
Correct.
You choose. So tell me about what you sell new and why.
Well, it's got to be two things. It's got to be a horn that I like personally, and a maker that I like personally as well. I have to respect the maker. It has to be a good balance between respecting the maker and the horn. So I really like the people that I deal with, and I really, really like the quality of their instruments.
So what do you sell new?
New.
Tell me which maker you respect.
Oh golly, there's, Rico Kuhn is one of the.
Rico's a great guy.
He's one of the nicest guys in the business, and his horns are built like jewelry. They're gorgeous.
Yeah.
Dietmar Dirk and Steve Lewis, of course, everybody knows, and they're both. Steve. To hear Steve talk about Dietmar, and Steve is kind of on the, the pantheon of horn makers here in the U.S.
Right, exactly.
And you hear
Pantheon.
Steve talk about Dietmar's abilities as a designer and maker is incredible. Let's see. Also, the Briz horns from China, which are kind of a new, and they created a stir, and then
Okay.
there's
We'll talk about that.
and Yamaha. I've
You
always
sell new Yamaha.
yeah.
Okay, and so you're a Yamaha dealer.
Yep.
So, but just for the
Just
line of
for horns. That's
okay,
all I
go
can.
ahead.
I tried to get a boat, but no.
A boat.
They have
And a
Yamaha boats.
motorcycle and
And a motorcycle, but no, they
and
just
jet skis.
I did try to get some of that stuff, but they're like, no, sorry.
Well, good for them.
Oh. And
They have their standards, obviously.
let's see, was that it? I think that's it. And I have Hoyer in there, but I've been doing less with them lately.
Okay. All right. So, so Rico Kuhn and Dirk and what that, but you said Steve Lewis, but that's through his affiliation with Dietmar.
Correct. Yeah, Steve sells his own horns just by himself.
Right. Exactly. So he has a one-man shop in
Correct.
Chicago.
Yep.
And
Here's to one-man shops.
what's that?
Here's to one-man
Here's to
shop.
one-man shop. There are a lot. It's not a huge industry. I mean, and a lot of it is still very much, even among the biggest, not Yamaha, say, and certainly not like Conn-Selmer, but, almost every other shop.
Yeah.
Repair-wise, manufacturer-wise, I mean, we're small shops. We're small. It's a small niche business.
Yep.
Even at its biggest, it's not even considered a big business.
Well, it's funny when I get emails or phone calls, and I'll answer the phone. They'll say, "This is Ken.
You answer
I'm
your own
talking
phone?
to-" Yeah. Well, I'm like, it's just me and
Yeah,
us. It's just the
right.
two of us.
Just the two of us. Yeah. So, we talked about Briz horns though. So this, you said it caused a stir, and I would say that's fair to say because for a long time, you're always concerned about quality, right? And you had some, I would say, not complimentary things to say about low cost import horns. Is that fair to say?
That's very fair to say.
And you advised people against them for a long time.
I did,
And yet
I
you're-
still do.
And you still do. And
Well,
yet-
not so much against import horns, but just low quality horns in general.
right. But I mean, I do seem to remember that you used to say, don't buy a Chinese horn.
Absolutely.
But Briz is made in China.
Yep.
So tell us about that. How do you get from don't buy a Chinese horn to actually selling a Chinese horn?
Let's see. It was about 6 years ago or so. I was at NAM which is National Association of Music Merchandisers.
Merchandisers, yep.
It's huge.
It's the big trade show.
And when we say big trade show, I don't think you can fathom how gigantic this trade show is. But anyhow, I went there and I tried, 100 horns easily by all different makers I'd never heard of before. And, but there were ones there like Yamaha and Kahn and stuff.
Right.
And then I came across this one tiny table in the cheap section of NAMM.
In the cheap seats.
Truly against the far wall that you only get to if you're really bored. And I found this horn that I really liked. And I spent a long time talking with the husband and wife and the designer about the horns. And then I came back the next year, did the same thing. And over a period of 3 years or 4 years, I was waiting till they got it just the way I wanted it.
So during this time, you're giving them input.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What kind of input are we talking about here? What are you saying to them? You need to do what?
You need to, make this less heavy, this, different tapers, all these different kinds of input that you and I would recognize as making a horn a higher quality. Okay. And then when it finally got to the point where I really liked the horn, I called up Jan Baloo and invited Jan to come with me to NAMM. And
which I'm sure he accepted gladly.
Jan. You have to have Jan on this show.
I must have Jan on the show, but I have to. He's not getting any coffee.
But anyhow, so Jan is just, first of all, he's wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, just being in a room full of thousands of...
Jan is energy. He's like pure energy.
And we're going through, and I have not told him why I wanted him there. But
okay.
He had no idea that I had this horn in mind. So we are going again from maker to maker to maker about the different horns that we liked or tried. I'm sorry. And he'd be, it's okay, And then he got to this one, and I never said a word to him. And he grabs me. He goes, Ken, oh my God, Ken, this is the one. And he was trying to whisper in my ear like he didn't want them to see his enthusiasm.
Okay.
But, he's being Jan, which is, everybody in the room can see his enthusiasm.
Okay. It can be seen from outer space.
Yeah. So in the end, I was like, yeah, Jan, I know. So, and I also found out that other makers had been working with Briz, actually, as well.
Okay.
So,
in terms of design, or
and that would be Paxman, of course, has been.
Is that the Academy model?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Okay, so the Academy model is made by Briz.
Correct.
But
it's to Paxman specs. You can't go. For example, I can't contact Briz and say I want a Paxman Academy model.
Right.
No.
So now you call this the Pope Baloo Alliance horn.
Right, that's what we call it. Yeah.
Is that a term of art for marketing?
That's what Jan came up with, and I go with whatever Jan says.
Okay, so you let Jan do the marketing.
Yeah.
So this horn, obviously, what are the advantages then? I mean, this is clearly a horn you said that is worth buying, worth selling.
Well, the horn market took an interesting turn, I would say maybe 8 or 9 years ago, maybe a little more than that, where prices really started to skyrocket fast.
Right.
And
really skyrocket.
Yeah. I mean, it used to be that you could get a high-end horn for, $5,000-6,000, I think was kind of the higher end ones.
Yeah.
And then...
just to interrupt, when you and I both were first interested in Rikkin horns.
Yeah, they were under 5,000.
They were under 5,000. Retail.
Right.
That's right. Go ahead.
Now, of course, back then the euro was 87 cents to the dollar, and now it's $1.
Well, and then it pretty quickly went up to like $1.35.
Right.
And, so that jacked the price up.
Yeah.
But domestic-made horns went up as well.
Yeah, and there was. I mean, I think a lot of it had to do with there were some of the more desirable makers from Germany had very high prices set on their horns. And I think that other people, in order to stay at par, at least in players' minds, they felt they had to raise their prices to match that. That's just my take on it.
So it became kind of a spiral upward?
I think so. So, and I don't mean to denigrate high-quality instruments at all. I just think that they've gotten to the point where not everybody can own one. So hopefully this will help alleviate that.
Okay. So, in other words, you brought it into the market as being a lower price point instrument that still has a high quality.
Yes.
So, what does it sell for?
What is that?
That's my phone.
Oh.
Never mind.
What's this sell for? 4,100, and then the real high end is 6,200.
Excuse me, everybody. I'm just going to look at this real quick. Okay. Just go ahead.
Is that the
No,
pizza?
no, everything's fine.
It's not the pizza?
It's not the pizza.
Okay.
No.
But anyhow,
somebody
so-
trying to bother us.
It was, it's been fun. I love trying to find, I like going to NAMM anyhow, because it's in LA in January. What's not to like?
Mm-hmm.
And
Well, they have one in Nashville too.
I don't go to that one. Nashville in the summer? Nah.
Okay, so anyway, we're talking about price points and all.
But anyhow, so we'll see if it brings it down. It's really interesting to compare.
So, what did you tell me? What the price point was? I
Yeah,
forget.
4,100. and then-
4,100 for a double horn fixed bell.
Actually, the cheapest one is 3,600. No, cut bell, flight case.
Oh, cut bell.
Yeah.
4,100.
Yeah.
Wow, that's. I may go get one.
So, well, but anyway, they're not for everybody. I mean, no horn is for everybody.
That's true. That's true. I mean, I like to say it's why they make chocolate and vanilla ice cream.
Unless you're in Europe.
Unless
'Cause
you're in Europe, where Alex 103 is for everybody.
That's right. Hi, Philip.
Well, it's. I think that's a fair statement. There's hardly a European player who doesn't play an Alex 103. Yeah. But as far, I mean, I'm thinking about in terms of where this fits into the market.
Mm-hmm.
So now you have there at this point when you're buying the Briz and selling the Briz
Mm-hmm.
horns, the Pope Balu Alliance horn, there is a there's a general sentiment against instruments that are made from Asian market instruments. And I think that's a fair thing to say, that there's
Absolutely.
a sentiment against
I would
that.
take that one step further. I would say there's a general sentiment against horns that cost below a certain price point.
Yeah.
And so that it's one and the same. Well, not one and the same, but obviously a horn that's made poorly typically tends to play poorly and doesn't hold its value. And people will see a lower cost instrument and assume it has those qualities.
Right.
And also the extrapolation was that so many
Some of them do have those bad qualities.
So many poor instruments were coming out of China for so long. I mean,
Right.
they were more musically, what do they call musically shaped objects?
Instrument-shaped
Objects,
ISOs. Yeah. That's there was a term for that, and yet there's not one factory in China pumping everything out. So clearly,
Right. And the neat thing about Briz is, like most high-end shops, is they are controlling everything. They're making everything right there on the premises.
well, a lot of the large manufacturers themselves have gone to China for Taiwan and mainland China for the lower student models usually.
Yep.
Like even Yamaha.
Yep, the
does.
567s. But what Yamaha does, which is very interesting, is they set a standard by which all the factories, no matter where they're located, have to comply.
Right.
So if they change one thing at their factory and wherever their factories are,
Right.
Germany or whatever, every factory has to change. So if they go
Right.
lead-free solder here, all of them have to do
All
it.
of them have to do it. Yeah. So the Briz horn fills this like it's kind of it's priced somewhere around like Con 8D. I think a Con 8D fixed bell goes for just a few hundred more than a Briz with the cut bell. Is that
Probably,
correct?
yeah.
So it's priced in the same area, a little bit less.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what's is it the same quality? I mean, we're talking about in terms of. I mean, if I pick one up, go, yeah, I'd rather play this than this other instrument that's American made or Japanese made or whatever. I mean, or is it strictly price? Are we just like, yes,
No,
it's the
it's
same quality type horn, but I pay a few $100 less.
One thing I like to do when I go to all of these shows is I bring along my compression testing machine.
Oh yeah, the Magna Helic.
That thing is amazing. Next to the ultrasonic cleaner, it's probably the best investment I've made in my shop in quite a while. But it will show me hidden flaws that you don't see. The other day I was working on a horn. A player from Florida flew up to my shop, and I was doing some work for him. Got all done, and the thing played pretty good, and I put it on the Magnahelic, and it was not registering good. Found 3 little holes on the horn that you couldn't see,
Right.
but it took the Magnahelic to show
Right.
me that it was there.
Right.
Playing
so did
it,
you take this to NAMM? Is that what you're saying? You took it to NAMM and like plugged all the
no,
instruments
but
in?
when I did buy, because I went back from NAMM with one horn. From
Oh,
Paris.
okay.
I took one back and
Free
put it,
sample.
Yeah, free. But I put it on the Magnahelic, and it was registering almost a perfect score.
Oh, good.
So,
Good. So what you're saying is that the valves are made with a lot of compression.
yes.
And
But there are people who don't like a lot of compression.
well, that,
Lou De Niro. Lou-
well, I can't. There was a Philadelphia player, and I don't remember who, so I'm not going to say a name, because I probably won't get it right. But there was a Philadelphia player apparently who went to Walt Lawson and got a valve job.
I heard this story.
Yeah, and when he got it back, was like, it plays different.
Yeah.
And Walter said, well, of course it does. I did a valve job on it. He was very unhappy.
Well-
so Walter had to actually lap in tolerance to make it a
Right.
little leaky.
And that's one thing I do in my shop is every horn that is listed for sale gets a reading, a number, what the Magnahelic gives. So that if you're one of those people who likes a little slipperiness in your horn, you can see and say, I like ones with a reading of 2 or 2.5 or 3
Yeah, I mean,
to some extent.
yeah, but I mean, is this an absolute sort of is this
Quid
a
pro
rigid
quo,
standard or is it a rigid standard that you're using it for, or is it just a guideline? Is it just a you might consider, if you like horns that are slippery, you might consider.
No, that I do just by play testing myself.
Okay, how useful is the Magnahelic reading? Because I know you give it out.
Because if somebody comes in and tries a horn that they find too notchy, odds are they're going to find horns with a similar reading.
Okay,
That
so it's
way-
kind of a guide.
A little bit, yeah.
But it's not a hard and fast.
But pretty
I
much,
gotta have something with a 0.5 or better.
pretty much anything over
0, by the way, is perfect.
No, 0 is a block of.
As a block of
Block
lead.
of lead, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, 6 is like you're
And
blowing in
pretty
air.
much anything over 4, and
Over
you
4.
start to really
Really feels stuffy.
get exhausted. Yeah.
Right, but it's a guideline. It's not a hard and fast thing.
But it's a great tool. It really is.
Okay, yeah, I every tool I find it is a great tool because there is a use for it.
Yeah.
That's why it's a tool, and you can either use it properly or you can not.
Right.
Oh, it just seems to me that you can improperly use it. I mean, if you
absolutely.
go only by Magnahelic reading,
That's absolutely true.
so it's a guideline, but it's not a hard and fast rule.
Yep.
That's kind of what I'm looking for there. All right, real good. So you have had, so you've got, all right. So you got the Briz horns. We're talking about lines of horns, and you have Yamaha horns, and Yamaha has a new model,
The 861, 2 new models.
671 and the 871.
Yeah.
And do you have both of those in your shop right now? Or?
I'm sold out of the 871s, but I have the 671s. Yeah.
So tell us about these horns since they're new.
Yamaha is like turning the Titanic. Not the Titanic, but turning a tanker, I mean.
Right.
In that when they decide they're going to do something, they don't just do it and it's out next year. These 2 models, I think, took 7 years in the making.
believe it.
Something like that.
I believe it. Well, when I took a tour of the Con King factory in Eastlake, and I was complaining to them about certain things about the quality of the build, and no, that could be solved. That could be easily solved.
Well, like the numbers 1, 2, and 3 on the bearing plates.
Yeah.
Somebody's job is just to punch a 1, a 2, and a 3 in those.
Yeah.
And how many times do you go to look and they got just like the top
Up of
of
the
a
2,
3?
yeah.
And you're like, is
it
this
2 or
3?
3? Yeah, that's right. And you had one job.
Exactly.
Probably that person's watching now and is going to send us go ahead, send us a nasty email. It's your job to punch that 3 in there properly. But my point was that you guys could do this and it would improve it.
Right.
And the fellow who was giving me the tour, I can't remember his name at the moment. I get it wrong, I'm sure, but he said, Dave, you have to understand. And he took me to a set of filing cabinets, and he pulls open a drawer filled with files, and he pulls out a single sheet, and he says, do you see this? It's got 15 steps on it. And that is the assembly build plan for one part. And for us to make any change, we have to make sure that all of these sheets, that everything flows through properly, that it doesn't affect anything else. This is one tiny change in assembly or manufacture costs us $10,000. One single change.
It's funny though.
And so a corporation like Yamaha, probably even more.
Yeah.
At least nowadays.
Yeah,
So-
especially because they have multiple production facilities.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a lot of, and like you said, everybody's got to do the same thing across all their facilities.
And I'm sure that there's a whole load of horn players out there who have been to the IHS shows where Ray and not Ray, what's his name? The guy for Yamaha.
Wayne Tanabe?
Wayne.
Wayne
sorry.
Tanabe.
Sorry, Wayne. Where Wayne and company were at the different shows saying, okay, come and try out these instruments. And they would have them in a room. You'd fill out all the sheets, which ones you liked best. Over the years, I probably went through 4 of those different rooms trying out these horns.
So it took like 7 or so years to come
Yeah,
up with these new models.
and I think
was
they-
it worth it?
I think that for a while they had too many chefs in the kitchen. You know, they had too many people giving input, because if you have 8 horn players and you give each one a horn, say which one do you like best and why, they're going to have opposite reasons. So they were getting input from all these people, and then they try to put it all together. It's going to be hard. So eventually they started to weed out and just take a few people, like maybe 4 or so
Okay.
horn players that were very high end and obviously phenomenal players, and use their input.
Okay. So they've started the Yamaha system. If you don't know, it's a 3-digit system, and the first number indicates basically what class of instrument they consider it to be. Like, so a 6 is a professional, what we call intermediate,
Right.
and the 800 series is their custom series. So is the 800, the 871, is this like literally the way it used to be custom, like their very best technicians putting these horns together?
I could be wrong on this, but I used to think that the 8 series was put together by one guy.
Maybe that's it.
Because I do know one guy is responsible for making all their tubas, and that the 8 series is one technician making the horn from start to finish, rather than the line assembly.
Is
But
that still true? That's my question.
honestly, I don't know.
You
But
don't know.
They're so hard to get. I would assume so, but I could be wrong.
Okay. All right. So, and you've got them and you've played them, and a worthy addition.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've always been a big fan of Yamaha stuff all these years.
Well, I'll tell you what. Talk about consistency.
Yeah.
I mean, really consistent from horn to horn. And I mean, I get a Yamaha horn, and when I align it after cleaning, I put their Yamaha bumpers in. I don't even check the
it's
alignment.
perfect, yeah.
There's no point checking it.
No, they're bell rings. Another story.
Well, they're consistent. They're consistent.
consistent.
But they're not the same
That's
ring, model to
right.
model. Yeah. So I mean, they love to engineer everything just to the nth degree.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
But they're wonderful, and they're a fabulous company, and they throw a great party at NAMM every year.
That's why face it. That's why you went. You went for the party.
It was a fun party.
Were there tasty eats? Super tasty eats.
Super tasty eats, fabulous bands. Yeah.
Excellent. So, talking about shows, let's talk about when you go to shows, not as an attendee, but as an exhibitor. So you go to a lot of horn shows.
Yep.
How many a year do you go to?
That's hard to say. There's the
On average, just throw a number out there.
northeast, southeast, mid-south, sometimes the northwest, the international.
When it's in the U.S. or all internationals?
It depends if I need the tax write-off.
If you
No,
want-
actually, I haven't.
If it's a destination you haven't been to yet.
I haven't done any of the foreign ones yet. But and then, well, like tomorrow, we're going to be at DC Horn Day tomorrow.
DC Horn Day.
And then
audition mode
audition mode
is
for
happening
Denise
at
Tryon.
Temple. That's Denise Tryon and Carl Pittock's
Yeah, so that's
thing.
7. But I'd say typically I do 4 to 5 a year.
4 to 5 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
A
lot.
lot
of
of hotel sites.
a lot of hotels, a lot of traveling, a lot of schlepping, and how many tables do you typically get?
I used to take a lot more tables because I used to drive to all of these. Like when it was in Denver, Susan McCullough's show.
Yeah.
Denver. I drove that and straight 33 hours straight. But
What?
yeah,
When was that?
I don't remember.
You were a much younger man.
Yes.
right?
Now I fly, and I ship the horns, and hopefully they make it there before I
Well,
do.
you like me when I was doing a lot of the retailing end of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like me, you used to bring like I don't know if you still do or not, like tons of sheet music, lots of accessories.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Well, this year I will, because this year it's in Ithaca, right around the corner, relatively. So this year I'm actually renting a truck.
Oh, okay. I mean, like a rider truck.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you're gonna bring like the entire shop.
I'm
How
gonna
many
bring
tables
a
do you
lot of stuff. I only have, well, I have a room,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm sharing it with a bunch of my friends. But I'm only having 12 8-foot tables, so 96 linear feet. So
12, 8-foot. Are they 8-foot tables? Because normally they're 6-foot tables.
I hope they're 8-foot tables.
You're counting on that extra 2 feet per table. You need that 24 extra feet.
It doesn't matter. It'll be it'll be fine.
And you still sell Marcus Bona cases, obviously.
Yep.
So you got a lot of that going on, and you get to a show, and you lay out all your stuff on the table, and then what happens?
You're exhausted.
You're exhausted. That's right.
That's right. No, what happens is before you've opened up, you've got all these people like hovering around like bees to the honey.
Yep.
And, but you're not open yet. And while you're setting stuff out on the table, they're like, "Can I try this?"
Yeah.
So then you finally get all set up, and then there's a concert, and it's empty for
Right.
the first
Right.
hour or so. And then all hell breaks loose when everybody is between concerts.
Well, I guess what I was actually going for was I remember a particular show at UNLV years ago. You were there. I was there. I can't remember who else. I remember Jim Patterson was there.
Mark Atkinson was there.
Mark
too.
Atkinson. That's right. Mark Atkinson was there, and
Wait,
it was
this the year Jan was there, and
no.
okay.
I don't. Maybe, but I seem to remember that it was just horribly attended.
Oh, okay, yeah. There have been a few shows where there are more exhibitors than attendees,
Yeah.
and these shows are expensive for us. Like
Right.
For IHS Ithaca, when it's all said and done, well over $2,000 in expenses, way
Yeah.
over that.
Yeah.
So
You got to get hotels for every night. You got to buy your
hotels,
tables.
food, shipping, lost time in the shop.
Right.
But they're fun, and it's all about with it being a web economy. People can sign on to Music 123 on the internet. When was the last time you ever saw them at a show?
Yeah.
But anyhow, they
Well, they do show up in the guise of, I don't know about Music 123, but like Woodwind Brassman shows up in the guise of there'll be local music and arts. And
Well,
stuff
even
like
Woodwind Brassman. When was the last time they were at an IHS show?
that. I don't know about IHS.
And I don't mean to just pick
Music and
them
Arts
on-
will be at DC Horn Day tomorrow.
But my point is that the guys who are doing this, who are going to these conferences,
Right.
who are letting you horn players or exposing these horns to all of you horn players, it comes at an expense. So which isn't borne by all shops equally. So Music 123, who's never gone and exhibited at a horn show that I've ever been to, can sell their horns for maybe
A few-
$20 cheaper.
few bucks less.
Yeah.
Right. Well, see, I guess the thing that occurs to me is that the guys and gals who go to the shows and they buy the tables and they show up, show after show after show. These are the people who are really deeply invested in the community.
Yeah.
And
know their craft well too.
and know their craft well, and people would, I think, do real well. Yeah, Finn's
The dog is
down
snoring.
there. He's down behind us, snoring away. We got to get a Finn cam.
Give him some coffee.
Yeah, it's just Finn. So, but these are people who bring their stuff. They show up. They're invested in the community. They know their craft. And if you really, really want to try a horn, if you want to know about a particular horn, if you want to, if you want to hear about all the new stuff, if you want to hear about what's good, what's bad, why this isn't working for you, I mean, if you want anything about your gear or your accessories or the sheet music or the profession, you do well to go to these shows, show up and patronize these people who are deeply invested in the community, because the internet is not going to give you everything you need. It's going to give you very little of what you need in terms of being, because the music world is a community. It's not just buy stuff and use it. It's really a community. It's a community enterprise, and very few of us do what we do without being part of that community.
And to any of you who have never been to a IHS convention and probably are cringing at the idea of being surrounded by horn enthusiasts all around you, they're actually a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been, you and I have both been to over a few hundred of these.
Probably, yeah.
And they're fun. You get to see all of these people who you see maybe once a year, twice a year, maybe.
You get to meet very famous players, too.
And they're...
who are happy to meet you.
And they're either inspiring or really... I'm going to put the horn down and never play again. I could never reach that.
Right, yeah. I may as well give up now.
I remember IHS Bloomington and Eric Terwilliger.
I knew you were going to say that.
Wow. He played Strauss II perfectly and
I was there.
Phenomenally passionately. And then he finishes it up with a what do you call encore, where he played Till, this version of Till Eulenspiegel, for one horn, which I sell in my shop. And,
the horn or the version?
The version.
Okay, yeah, the sheet music.
It was. I walked out thinking, how many people are going to quit the horn now? Either that, or they're like so inspired to go work their butts off.
You should never quit because somebody's better than you. You should just aspire to be as good as they are.
True.
Or
as good as you can be.
As good as you can be. That's
Isn't
right.
that the Marines? Be as good.
Be all you can be in the Army.
Oh, the Army.
That's the Army. So the Army field band horns are going to be there tomorrow.
Yeah, I saw that. Yep.
Or is that at IHS?
No, that's
shows mixed
tomorrow.
Up? Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tomorrow. So yeah, you get to meet a lot of great people, and the only show that I find is really challenging is the exhibits room at the International Trumpet Guild.
Hi, Chris. I hope you're having fun out there, Chris.
Yeah, really. You have to bring your earplugs. You just have to. It's meltingly loud. It's pretty. It's
double
pretty
high
loud.
G time.
Yeah. But we do know that some people are, whereas you and I invest a lot of time and effort into doing stuff like that. I mean, there are other stores and so forth and so on that don't invest the time and effort. And I'm not going to say don't patronize them, but it seems to me that they would do well to come into the community of people who are participating more fully.
Yep.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
All right. So let's see. Other stuff that you do. You've worked on a few museum pieces.
Over the years, yeah. Right now, I'm in the middle of a real cool restoration of an 1840 Graves bass horn over the shoulder, and it looks like half of a trombone, but where the slide would go into the bell section, you put your mouthpiece so the bell points backwards, so that it pointed at the
troops
marching behind them.
That's right.
Which kind of meant that the musicians were the first line of fire.
Like being an IT.
Yeah. Oh boy! But anyhow, it was.
What did the soprano instruments point backwards? Also, I don't remember.
Yeah, there's a whole line. If you
like
Google
cornets and all that, actually point
all
backwards
different
over the shoulders.
sizes. They're like little guys.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And here we have a picture of that same bass one. And you said it's made by Graves.
Graves was the first brass instrument maker in the U.S. It ended up becoming the Boston Music Company over time.
Oh, okay.
Vega, it sold to various different people.
Mm-hmm.
I have a Graves key bugle myself, but that one there is one I've been in the process of restoring and should have done by this weekend.
So when you restore an item like this, what are we talking about? I mean, you're not trying to. It's a museum piece. It's literally going into a museum.
Mm-hmm.
Are you trying to make it perfect again? Are you going to get all those dents out? I mean,
No,
I see some dents in the bottom bow, and I see some dents at the very bottom of the guard.
No, on this horn, for example, it's missing some parts. If you notice, there's that a couple of wide open tubes there where there should be tubing.
Mm-hmm.
I have to manufacture the tubes to go in there, and it's missing one of the. Well, right on that picture, none of the keys are on that picture, but there are only 3 of the keys that came with it out of 4, so I had to manufacture a 4th key.
Let's see if we can get the keys up. We have a couple more pictures.
The keys, just to make the one key took me almost 2 full days. It was not
And
easy.
you made that out of nickel silver or out
Yeah,
of,
nickel silver. You want it to be as close as
so
looking
you're
original.
trying to make if you're manufacturing a part, you want it to be you want it to be as close to original as possible.
Yeah, the
And I
key.
assume the key that you manufactured is the one that is on the right side of the screen.
Correct. Yep. It's still too
It just
shiny.
looks shiny
Yeah.
and looks like it doesn't look like the other three.
What do
so
you mean
that-
it doesn't look like the
No, no. In terms of
I know, I
finish,
know.
in terms of finish,
So, for example, there, when I'm all done,
Uh-huh.
I have to match the patina of the new key, or bring the old keys up to a shinier one.
Right.
That I leave up to the museum.
well, you could just let that tarnish, couldn't you? Is
Yeah,
that-
yeah. You know, sometimes I'll put it like in some kind of lemon solution or something like that on different things.
Okay. Okay.
But for example, the missing tubing, I can't go out and buy nickel tubing of that size, so I have to, seam wrap nickel sheet around a rod. I use, trombone rods.
And we have a question. Yes, Diane. Did it have Stulzel valves?
No, this has just plain old rotary valves, actually. Some of the ones I've seen, who's the makers? It's Dibley? No. I can't remember the maker that has the pinched ports. So rather than round ports, they're only about the size of an envelope opening.
Con short stroke?
Kind of like that, yeah, like the contract. So, but it's everything takes a lot of time on these projects, and they're done more out of
How many have you done? How many of these museum
over
piece
the
type
years.
things have
I've
you done?
some for museums in Texas now, just Texas, and I work on the instruments at the MFA, Museum of Fine Arts in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
They do recordings of all the instruments, or try to, of the ones that are on display there. So they try to get them at least into playing condition, which is what I think they're trying to do.
Well,
with this one.
I've worked on some old instruments, but I've never worked on an instrument for a museum. Do you get known for that? I mean, do the museum say, hey,
I hope not, because I don't.
you gotta call it Ken. Ken's your guy.
Yeah, no, there are guys who do just old instruments.
Wow.
But I gave them too short a time frame. I was like, oh yeah, this will only take me a couple of weeks.
Now, I'm going to ask a horrible question here, but, this is a business after all. Do museums pay?
They do, but you can't. There's no way I could charge this out what it would be worth.
So what do you get out of it?
Fun of working on a one-of-a-kind
It was
instrument.
fun.
Yeah,
Okay.
I love working
Do
on.
they
great
do they
stuff.
give you a little plaque at least next to the instrument when they do
No,
put it on
but it's
display?
funny because I was talking.
Restored by Pope Instrument Repair.
I don't think so. I don't know. I was talking to the curator though, and
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Oh, this is coming out really good. You're not going to be able to tell the pieces I made from the one." He goes, "So that might be problematic."
Why is that?
Because they want to have. He said, it'll be on a paper record of what you've done, but he's going to have me like either inscribe my name or the date on the pieces that I made.
So they want to know what's original and what's
Yes. Yeah.
what's authentic and what isn't.
Correct.
I see. Okay. Well, that makes sense. And the reason I ask these questions is I hear all the time people talking about museum quality. Not necessarily with respect to brass instruments, but with respect to a lot of stuff. And they use it as a term of art in marketing to mean something that's really fine or something that is really well made or something like that. Museum quality. And it's not really what museums are about. They're not about making fine things. They're about preserving. Exactly. Here's another view of the keys. I got it.
Okay. You should go back to the first picture again, so Dave can see my bench in the background.
So anyway, Diane asked us again if it wasn't for the fact that you did the work for a museum, could you have just substituted modern brass tubing? If like somebody came to you and said, I got this old instrument, fix it up for me. Would you?
Could I? Yes. Would I? No. I won't do something that I would consider half-assed. I mean,
Well, if you could have gotten like modern unseamed tubing that would fit, and
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, in case like that, yeah. But would I, for example, take a little rod and put a piston?
Diane saw the rotaries. Go ahead.
I wouldn't make it look horrible. I wouldn't just to get it working.
So if you could have put the right tube in that was like, it just came off the shelf, modern day tube, you wouldn't have bothered to go out and seam
Correct.
sheet brass.
Yeah. And they probably would have been fine with that, given that it's for looks and to get it playing. And assuming just that I'm going to have to be marking what was replaced on it anyhow.
Right.
It's not going to matter too much.
Right.
Let me see if you can see.
So when this is done, this is going to be playable, right?
Yeah, that's my bench. You can't actually see the bench.
Probably can't see your bench anyway.
because it's covered.
Well, I've seen pictures of you like cutting hornbills and stuff like that, and your bench is just like it's like got this mountain of stuff on it in the background, and I'm like, now I understand why it is that Ken sits off his bench a little bit because he can't actually use his bench. Do we need to zoom in? You want anything you want to?
Yeah, it looks okay.
Yeah. So now these type of rotaries, do those keys, those lever keys, is that a particular name?
Yeah, side action.
Side action.
Top action rotary valve, side action rotary valve. So when you see Civil War instruments, they're either called SARV, TARV. That's just the how they're activated.
So Diane says she counts 4 valves. It has 4 rotary valves.
Correct.
And is it standard fingering as modern as we consider it, or is it a
I'll
different?
find out in a couple of days. I'll let you know.
What pitch is this instrument in? Theoretically,
Question.
you'll find that out too.
Yeah.
Stick a mouth. What kind of mouthpiece goes on this?
The mouthpiece came with it. Actually, most of the instrument
Is this like a sheet brass mouthpiece, or
No, this one isn't. Not like the early.
how would they have made
French
that?
horn
How would they
valve.
have made that mouthpiece?
I don't know. I'm amazed just looking at this horn, how much they were able to make all with what they had back
Yeah,
then.
it is amazing.
So going back to the whole idea between instruments that are museum quality, I wouldn't want a new instrument made to museum quality specs because the way they had to make stuff back then is not necessarily better. Seamed cylindrical tubing is not the way to go.
Yeah, it's not. And you see some of these old instruments, you have them in your hands, and you're like, how did they ever play this?
Yeah.
They seem kind of rough and ready.
Yeah.
But modern techniques have really come along. But when you think about them making a bell like that,
Yeah.
with what they had, it's just amazing.
Let's see, 1830s. Would those been like pedaled on?
The lathes, you
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
They might have been. Yeah, or they might have run it off of like like a mill. They might have had a mill race,
Yeah.
run it off a hydropower. It's possible.
But new
They would
instruments-
not have had electricity.
Yeah. Yeah.
So cool. So and what else have you done museum wise?
Oh, let's see. A keyed bugle for, I think it was the Dallas Museum or something like
What
that.
do you use pad wise on a keyed bugle?
Leather. You make your own pads out of leather. Just wrap
Just-
them over.
Over what, like discs, or
Discs, yeah.
you won't use like bassoon pads or anything like that?
I'll use whatever works.
Whatever works.
No, you want to use whatever fits with the rest of the instrument.
Well, modern sax pads are like not the right thing.
Correct.
But it seems to me like the kid bassoon pads are
Exactly,
probably
because they
more
use
like
the white leather. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
right.
It's, lots of fun projects.
Cool. So, what other kind of fun projects? What are your favorite? What's your favorite project? What do you like to do the most?
I like cutting hornbills.
Yeah.
I like instruments that are so utterly damaged that there's a huge ooh factor. Yeah.
yeah.
So,
I can't lose on this one.
Exactly. It's like when somebody comes in and they've got one tiny little pinpoint dent
And you can't
in
get
an
it all the way
area
out.
of the tube
Right.
that you can't
Can't
get the ball
under,
around.
yeah. And then you know you're not going to make them happy no matter what you do.
Well, you also know, I mean, I warn people, I was like, okay, to get that dent out, you might create other aspects that you're going to see more than where the dent was originally.
Yeah. Sometimes you just have to leave it alone. But you say you like bell cuts.
Yeah, love bell cuts.
Okay. What do you love about bell cuts?
I'm good at them. I like doing things,
Yeah?
but I like seeing if I can do it in such a way that you can never tell it was taken apart again.
Right.
It's like a challenge to me every time because every horn maker's lacquer burns at a different temperature. For example,
lacquer.
and a Hoyer, it'll burn if you look at it sideways. And a Yamaha, you can You can fry it pretty good and it doesn't burn.
Some of them you burn and you can't get it off. It's like
Right, yeah.
and some will just like literally burn away.
Yeah. So it's fun just to test yourself to see how well you can do it.
Well, that's the goal, is make it look like it never happened.
Exactly, yeah.
And the closer you get to that, the better off you are. I saw a bell cut. I'll say his name. Up by you, Aaron Beck.
Yeah.
And Aaron, kudos on this bell cut that I saw. I mean, it looked factory. I mean, 100% factory. There's no lacquer matching problem. Aaron, I don't know how you did the lacquer. I really don't, because it was 100%. I'm thinking it had to have been stripped and relacquered.
That's a lot of work.
That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was just totally factory looking. So, what about bell rings? Where do you get your bell rings?
Germany.
Get them from Germany? Alexander?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I also have Schmid rings and I have Yamaha rings and all of it.
Paxman rings are. I mean, if you're doing a Paxman cut with a Paxman ring, you have to use Paxman rings if you want a Paxman cut.
There's nothing the size of those.
Nothing the size of a Paxman ring. They're enormousness. They're way down on the flare.
Yeah.
So and Yamaha, of course.
The opposite. In fact,
just
Marcus
the opposite.
Bona had to make special cases just for the Yamahas.
Let's talk about cases for a while.
Okay.
So, what's up with cases? I mean, first off, that it seems to me that there's like a flurry of activity again in terms of new case offerings, and there's also horns have all these different wraps. I mean, some are tighter than others, and you get the big. What's the biggest open wrap?
Felix's horns are
Felix horns
very
really big. And open. It's hard to get cases to fit those.
Wes's Hatch's horns are very large. The Hoyer G10, huge wrap.
Yeah.
Yep. Old Geyers. Yeah.
So when you cut a bell on those, what do you do with your customer in terms of case selection? You just say, well, you have to buy this case.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only a couple options for them that fit those. I know that Jan is working on some cases as we're speaking.
Yes,
Jan
that
Balu,
case.
That case.
Yeah. So for viewers who don't know about this, Jan Balu has been engaged in well over a year now, or I don't know how long, for quite a while now, in prototyping, developing, and getting ready to manufacture a carbon fiber case.
Yep.
That is just like going to be super duper.
I'm sure whatever Jan pours his heart and soul into, it'll be super duper. Yeah.
So, and then there's the Wiseman case that is also a carbon fiber case. They have a few models, and then there's Cardo case.
Cardo, yep.
Cardo they're not carbon fiber though.
They're not carbon fiber. They're closed cell foam, and they use a fabric shell over the closed cell foam, very light.
I haven't seen Cardo cases in a while. They're still making them, aren't they?
They are. I don't know all the particulars. There was some fallout in the company between the two makers, and one split off.
Where are they made?
In Switzerland. I think. I can't remember.
Okay.
So.
And well, of course, there's Marcus Bona.
Marcus Bona, yep.
And who was the original lightweight backpack cut bell case maker, the MB1, right?
Yep.
And which has now been knocked off like a million times. But he has carries on MB10 or something like that now, isn't he?
MB9.
9.
Yeah.
So he's he's not just a case maker, he's an innovator as well.
Yeah, he's amazing. One time I sent him a picture of an old Geyer case from the 50s. That's kind of redundant, old Geyer case.
Yeah, it is kind of.
And within 3 months or so, I got a case sent to me in the mail. And Marcus had taken that picture and ran with it.
Right.
Created the MB8, and it's a fabulous case. Yeah.
Well, Protec's got some new models too.
Yep, most of them based on other
Marcus Bona cases.
Bona
right?
cases, yeah.
They got now Protecs are made in Korea.
I think so. Yeah, yeah. They've got some good ones. And they're inexpensive. Yeah. So.
And there were some Chinese-made cases. You had some molded cases that were really nice looking, like fixed bell cases.
Yeah, they stopped the Eastman cases. Yeah, and there's also bags of Spain.
Mm-hmm. Bags of Spain, that's the other one, yeah.
And Walt Johnson.
But Walt doesn't make cases anymore.
No, he doesn't.
And people
But that doesn't stop people on Hornplay or tonight.
They want 'em.
Find a Walt Johnson.
find a
please.
Walt Johnson.
They always want you to have what you can't get. Yeah.
So Diane Bruce has asked us what lead-free solder does to the fragility of the joints. Okay, so let's talk about that.
Well, I think that it has more to do with protecting their workers, first and foremost. I mean, I honestly don't know what the health issues are as a player of lead, because you're not ingesting fluids from it, assuming you're emptying it correctly. But I always thought it was a protection for their
Well,
workers.
but lead-free solder melts and
more
flows at a higher,
higher, right, yeah.
a much higher temperature. Has more tensile strength.
Right.
It is technically more brittle, but it also has more tensile strength. Now, Jacob Medlin makes his horns completely with lead-free solder, and it's a different technique.
It's much harder to solder with.
And it's much harder to solder with. It takes a lot of skill, and more than that, it's much harder to clean up. Because if you have a solder wipe or a blob or something like that, you have to scrape it off.
Right.
Because you can't buff it off.
Right.
The brass around it will buff away before the lead-free solder will.
It's harder than the brass. Yeah.
Yeah. So eutectic solder is harder to work with. I thought all solder was eutectic, is it not? Diane, eutectic means an alloy that will melt, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it means an alloy that will melt at a much lower temperature than the elemental parts of which
Adam,
is made.
you're supposed to be Googling this to help him.
Yeah,
and
we're our
make
director.
him look smart.
Yeah,
and
come on,
hold it up
director.
on an iPad.
But what? So Diane, tell us what would you consider to be eutectic solder as opposed to non-eutectic solder? I mean, brazing, high temperature soldering, silver solder is not eutectic because it's high temperature. You're actually melting silver into a joint. So I don't know if
I wonder if there's a temperature cutoff at what point it's called eutectic or not.
I don't know.
Adam will tell us soon.
Adam's supposed get our research department.
The exact question you're looking at?
What is eutectic?
Hot soldering. Yeah. Oh, all right. So yeah, we're actually. I think Diane is talking about brazing with silver brazing wire. Yeah, that is the hardest joint. In fact, it's stronger than the metal itself.
Your horn is full of brazed joints. You just don't realize it. All of your braces have a little flange that is soft soldered to either side, and those braces are flanged to the bar across the middle. So
there is a maker. I won't name names, but I have been, because I have not verified this, but I've been told that this particular trumpet has a thumb ring where the ring or saddle itself is soft soldered to the brace plate, which is soft soldered to the trumpet.
Well, even old Geyers were the big bell brace down below. The flange was sometimes soft soldered to the small flange was soft soldered to the big flange on the bell one. Many of the old Geyers.
Wow.
Okay, eutectic.
Definition of eutectic: one of an alloy or solution having the lowest melting point possible. 2, upgrading to a eutectic alloy or solution, or it's melting or freezing.
All right, so I don't know if everybody heard that. Adam doesn't have his microphone today. The eutectic is an alloy that has the lowest melting point possible. In fact, I'll show you a eutectic material right now. I'm going to reach down here.
Let me guess. Zinc? Oh, yeah.
Cerometal.
Cerobend.
That ingot is an ingot of what we commonly call cerobend.
That's expensive, right?
You're darn right it is. And this melts in boiling water.
Yeah.
And it has the lowest melting point possible. And yet it's an alloy of all kinds of things that melt at a lot higher temperature individually. So,
And you can keep reusing it to a point, but after a while it starts to crack.
yeah, I'm beginning to think that I've got a moon-shaped thing over there. Beginning to think that Ken's going to reach over and try to get. I'm beginning to think that that's getting to the point where it's going to crack. I've used it enough. That's the same thing that you just saw, but was melted into the bottom of my big pan up there, and I just like the shape of it, so I left it. I made a nice decoration, but it's starting to feel like brittle when I use it.
Yeah, and when it snaps, then you kind of kink your tube really bad.
Don't you? You sure do. Well, pitch. I was talking to Jacob about pitch, and apparently pitch has a lot of the same problems is that if you get pitch so that it makes a white smoke, then you've
Overheated.
You've
it?
overheated it, and I don't know what in it has smoked, has evaporated, but then it gets really brittle, and it doesn't do the job that you want in terms of bending. So Diane says gallium metal. I don't know what you mean by gallium. Is this considered gallium metal? I've only known it as Cerobend. Cold solder.
I just use that new plastic stuff now, which you heat out of the tube with a blow dryer.
Commonly used bend for natural trumpet. You must be talking about. You must be, Diana. I think. Jacob says eutectic solder is very tricky to use. Burns out the beeswax. There you go. Pitch. The beeswax is coming out. See, Jacob is watching. He is paying attention. There will be a test in the morning. The gallium metal. I think what we're talking about is eutectic metal, like Cerobend. Or something like that in bending natural trumpets and things like that. Jacob uses pitch. See, now obviously we've gotten into a controversial topic because we've got a lot of people chatting about it. But yeah, Jacob uses pitch.
Well,
And I use Cerometal when I've got something where I want to make an adjustment and I want to really keep the roundness.
Yeah.
Like I just did a bell. It sounds crazy. A bell, oh my God, all that Cerometal. But it was just the very small end of it. I needed to change the geometry of it just a bit. And
I love this plastic stuff because
now that's what again?
I can't remember the name of it. I bought it. It comes from England, and I think Jacob and I had talked about it a while ago.
Yeah, Jacob, chat us and tell us what the plastic stuff is. It's not Instamorph.
No,
we're talking about.
no.
It's,
but it melts at a very low temperature. But unlike what I find with pitch sometimes, just the working it with my hands and all will soften it enough that it won't always stay round. This plastic stuff stays pretty good round, and you can hammer against
Polybend.
it.
Thank
That's
you,
it.
Jacob.
Yeah,
Polybend.
Polybend, yeah.
Bob, which Bob is that, Diane? Bob uses gallium for natural trumpet bends. Which Bob are we talking
We're
about,
talking
Diane?
trumpets.
Oh, so Ken doesn't care because we're talking trumpets. Yeah, Polybend is kind of useful. Maybe Jacob will chime in and tell us what he uses it for. But I know he bends all his tubing
everybody's
normally.
got different ways.
Dr. Robert Barkley. I don't know. Do you know Dr. Robert Barkley?
I know Bob Barker.
No, not Bob Barker. Bob Barker
Charles
never made a
Barkley.
natural trumpet in his life.
Every maker, repairman, whatever has their
Polybend, disappointing stuff, but a good idea.
own- I like it.
All right, now we're gonna have
but
an argument. I love it.
What
Go
I
ahead.
was just saying is that every repair guy, whatever, repair woman, whatever, has their own techniques, and as long as it works and the end result
Yeah.
is good.
Yeah.
I don't care how you get there.
Yeah.
you know.
Well, yeah, I agree. The end result is really what we're looking at.
Yeah.
And the other thing I find, I mean, like I said, Jacob, I know bends with pitch, and some people absolutely only ever bend with Cero. And
Con uses soap ice.
yeah. Con Selmer uses they use water that's got I think it's glycerin in it. Oh yes. Thank you, Jacob. Bob is part of Rick's Natural Trumpet Workshop.
He wrote a book called The Art of Trumpet Maker.
The Art of Trumpet Maker or Making?
Maker.
The Art of Trumpet Maker. Dr. Barkley wrote
Sounds
that
like
book.
a bad T-shirt from China.
Is that really the exact title? The Art of Trumpet Maker?
That's what it says.
Okay.
On the page when I read
I need to get that. Can I get that from Amazon? I'm trying to develop a library, as you can see behind me. I'm trying to develop a good library of books and stuff. So, sorry about that.
He works with Richard.
Serafinov.
Yeah.
Yeah. Serafinov or Serafinov?
Rick.
He works with Rick. Everybody knows him as Rick. Rick's a terrific guy.
By the way,
teaches
when
horn
you're-
at Indiana University.
When we were talking about places you can go to learn repair or schools like that, Rick runs a natural
Trumpet
horn.
workshop.
Natural horn.
Trumpet, I believe.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure.
Oh, no. In fact, didn't Jacob go to it?
I'm sure Jacob studied with Rick.
Yeah. Okay, that's
Jacob
what I was saying.
learned a lot of his craft from Rick.
Anyhow, you can learn a lot going to Rick's class. It's a 2-week or something like that class
I don't know
that he
how
has
long
in
it
the
is,
summer.
but yeah, and you make your own natural
Yeah.
trumpet from sheet brass to finished product.
Yeah.
You're done. When you're done, you have a trumpet that you
and
can't
he's a
play.
great guy. He's just such a nice guy.
He's a terrific guy. There you go. So shout out to Rick Serafinov or Serafinov, depending on which chair you're sitting in right now. It's actually a very useful shop if you're if you do anything with brass, because you learn a lot of the original techniques and do a lot of stuff with your hands. And I wish I had the money to do it. I would love to do it.
It's the art of the trumpet maker.
The art of the trumpet maker. There we go.
As opposed to the art of the Trump maker.
Oh, stop it. Stop it. This is the brass bench, not the political hour. So now you got me totally off track. Bob argued that seam tubing makes a better natural horn. I would like to read that article. I would like to see I would like to see his
Yeah,
arguments.
but that's tapered tubing. I'm talking about cylindrical tubing.
Maybe
maybe
he's talking about cylindrical tubing too. Maybe
that's
he's talking-
fine. I'm certain for a natural instrument, but I can't imagine for today's instruments, all of those slides and everything. The first thing you see when you see an old Guy or an old Schmidt is the inside slide tubes are split right along the seam.
Right along this. Well, yes. And there, we could talk about that forever and ever. Do we want to talk about that?
No.
But I agree. Jacob and I had a discussion about such things in the second episode of the live stream. So maybe another time, but that's not for today. So where were we? We're stuck in natural trumpet hell.
I remember the first time I met you was
Me?
Yeah, I was at a horn workshop, my first
my
one that I went
God.
to on my own.
That was Western Michigan.
Yeah, that's right. That was my first one.
Do I get to tell a tale about you? Your table coverings at Western Michigan were not the professional table coverings that you use today.
I remember. Yeah, back then. Yeah.
Ken showed up with like a ton of stuff, ton of horns, and for table coverings, he had fitted bed sheets that he threw over the tables, and then promptly hid the fact that they were fitted bed sheets with all the stuff he had. He opened all the cases.
Yeah. That was my first show. Yeah.
That was. I thought Georgia was your first show. I thought, and you were at University of Georgia in 1999.
I don't even remember.
Weren't you in
I was
Hans Pitzka's room?
Yeah, I was Hans and
Walt Lawson.
Walt Lawson and I were in the same room, and poor Walt. Because Hans, love it to pieces. He was just at my house a couple months ago. But
Thank you, Diane. See you later.
Hans has a propensity had when he was playing a propensity to play very loudly, and Walt was not always enjoying the long call for the 30th time in such a small room.
Well, Hans, I believe, owns the record for the number of public performances of the long call.
That's what he says.
Beat Gerd Seifert's record.
I believe
Record.
it.
Yeah. So it's a lot of long calls.
He is an interesting gentleman. He stayed at my house a couple months ago and spent much of the evening.
Playing the long call.
No, telling us all sorts of wonderful stories.
Well, that's good. That's good. So here's a question, because Hans always makes me think about some of these older European players who believe that the thing you have to do with a brand new horn is to wet it. Have you heard of this?
So when I first started playing the horn, my teacher told me that his teacher said when he bought a new horn, which was at that time always an Alex 103, he would put goat's milk in it.
Goat's milk.
Into the slide and then turn it over so all the goat's milk went down in the valves, shut it away, and leave it for a month.
Hence the term horn cheese. And then when he got a spoon and had a lovely meal of yogurt out of his horn.
You've seen some of those sausages.
Oh
they
my
serve over
god!
there.
Oh my god! That's amazing.
That was
a
my
month.
so my first teacher
A
told me
month.
that's what they.
I've also heard you're supposed to take lager beer, or is it Bock beer, and you're supposed to pour it in and wet the interior of your horn with the beer. I think they're just looking for the
can't you
alcohol
if you
fumes.
drink it first and then play
Then,
it?
that
that's
sounds great.
No, but it does the same thing, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's some interesting ideas out there. And then there's the European idea that you should never clean your horn. That you should never oil the valves, never clean your horn.
Yeah, the never oiling the valve one. There's still major makers who do not believe in oiling the valve. And what they mean by that is internally oiling the valves. They do believe you should put, a drop under the cap and down at the bottom of the
Under
spindle.
under the cap and in the gap is what I say.
Yeah, interesting. But they do not
Do you now?
believe that you should oil the inside of the horn. And I am exactly the opposite. I'm like, the most important oiling isn't the bearings. I mean, that is important,
Well,
but you can always tighten
I think
the
it's very
bearings.
important, but
It
yeah.
is. It is important, but
Right.
it's not
For
as-
wear.
For me, it's not as important as inside the horn for wear
Well, and you have to protect the metal from
and the water.
from the acidic water vapor that comes out of you.
Well, it's some acidic, but it's the reaction between the waters and the moisture. But yeah,
The water's in the moisture.
I mean, the waters and the zinc. Yeah, as
Yeah,
you,
right.
As you did
Well,
on
right. Well, the
episode-
acidic solution,
Right.
because what comes out of you is not acidic,
Right.
except for the fact that the carbon dioxide that comes out of you also goes into the water vapor and creates carbonic acid.
Right.
And
it's a chemical process.
right,
is
it's a
what I'm
chemical
saying.
process, and it takes the zinc out of the metal.
Right. So, one thing that I always tell people is a few drops of oil in your lead pipe, blow it through the horn.
Right.
That if you coat your whole inside of your horn, then the water's just going to ball up and roll right through out your horn and never come in contact with the brass, and will never wear your horn.
Right, exactly. So, and yet their horns, they say, oh, I've never oiled my horn. It's never failed on me. But
And what they don't realize is that horn no longer plays like it did the first time they picked it
right,
up and
there you-
played it.
right, exactly. And I think one of the things that keeps their horns from like seizing up is the fact that they play their horns. We're talking about people who
All the
play their
time,
horns
right.
all the time. They're whatever bonds are in there between particulate matter and corrosion, they're breaking that bond every time they play. They're also wearing their valves away.
Exactly. So when they do get it clean and it suddenly doesn't have compression.
Leaky as hell. No
Yeah.
compression. Put that Magna Helic on there.
Yeah.
Speaking of Magna Helic, let's take a little different tack. Now, and this is not a knock on the Joy Key.
Uh-huh.
Okay, but I have been told, and you can probably verify this, that when you put a mag machine on a horn with a Joy Key, that the reading is awful.
Yes. I in fact can't take a true reading.
Right.
On a horn.
And
with a
yet
Joy Key.
people put the Joy Keys on their instruments and play them and say they don't notice any
That's true. And I guess
bad effect. So does that mean you can put holes in your horn, or what?
this is a tough one because I have people good players who I respect highly, who really love that instrument. I recently put a Joy Key on for one of the BSO trombone players, Toby, and he loves it. I think that the argument is that unlike the Magna Helic, which creates an internal pressure, supposedly you don't create that same kind of pressure when you're playing, because you're not blowing against anything other than the sound waves that you're creating.
Well, I would think it would matter where you put the Joy Key. I would think that 99% of the time you're not going to put it in a critical place, but if you accidentally put it in a critical place, you're going to have a problem. I mean,
Well, it very well could be. But I mean, look at the problem with high B flats on Schmidt style
yeah,
horns. you
yeah.
know. We still haven't even figured out what that causes and what's that caused by. What that is
yeah, I mean, there are all kinds of solutions that people have for that.
so-called solutions.
Well, can I call it an improvement? Well, for example, I've had a lot of success, but not 100% success. When somebody comes in, they don't have a good high B flat.
Wait, let me guess. There's usually two things they do. One
Uh-huh.
is to put a rounded crook on in place of the first.
I don't
B
do
flats
that,
on.
but yeah.
The other one is three solutions. The other one is a new lead pipe, and the other
I don't
one
do that.
is to change the diameter of the first slide by either putting in another tube or some sort of a.
Yeah, that's what I do. I put a
Okay.
spacer in.
Yeah.
Because usually the people who have the problems are the people who are I've noticed.
Pulling it out too far.
And I only do this if they pull the first B flat slide like a lot.
Yeah, in essence, that's the dentist brain fix.
Right.
Yeah, putting
Changing the diameter
Yeah.
of the bore.
So, and in theory, I think that's about moving the
Nodal
wave,
or antinodal point.
yeah,
has
to a different place in the horn.
Well, it's clearly that node is slippery because the nodal point or antinodal point, I can't remember which, is moving.
Yeah, but the question
it's
is,
not staying in the same place.
Is it because of that sharp U bend, or is it
Right.
somewhere else on the horn? We
Well,
just don't know.
Well, and that's why I like the spacer,
Yeah.
because, for example, I had a customer who came in and she pulling that slide way out. I said, well, let's put some spacers in. And we put a spacer in on both sides. And she said, doesn't help. And it's an easy fix to try.
Yeah.
And then she took one spacer out, still didn't work. But then she took the other spacer out and left the first one in, and then it worked. And it was just the one spacer on the one side.
I was working recently on a.
It's an easy try.
Yeah,
is what I'm
yeah.
saying.
Yeah, I was working recently on a Nickel Schmidt, of which there's only been like 4 or 5.
I've
of them
never
that I-
worked on one.
And it has no high B flat, and he's tried absolutely everything.
It's a money note.
Yeah, so he fingers it. And I've had other people with the same issue, third F side of the horn. I don't want to go up to a high B flat on a third F side, but
Well, theoretically, it takes the same amount of pressure, but the partials are so close together.
yeah, it's
at
like
that
walking
point.
on snot. I mean, it's
Like walking on snot. That's a good one. That's a good one. So let's talk about your other activities, not just brass related activities. So, what's up with chickens?
every night when I'm done working, Tess and I go watch Farm TV.
Farm TV.
Yeah.
This is a real thing.
There's a real thing. So what we do is we both grab a
In,
drink.
in the middle of Boston, Massachusetts, you watch Farm TV.
Oh yeah, our backyard's a little Eden.
You called it Little Eden. That's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
So we go both go out there with our drink, open the gate, let all the chickens out into the garden.
Let all
We
the
just-
chickens. How many chickens do you let?
No, we only have 5, but and just have a drink and watch the chickens. It's quite relaxing. And one of the chickens, for those of you who've been in my shop, have probably noticed. She's taken to the habit of flying up to the window outside the shop and pecking at the window until we let her in. And every now
And
and
then she does something interesting.
Oh yeah, she likes to lay her egg behind the computer. But sometimes I forget to tell people that I have this chicken that does this. So I, while I'm working with them, they'll say, "There's a bird at your window," and I'll say, "Oh wow, look at that!" I'll go over and open the window and let the chicken in.
So, why do you have chickens in Jamaica Plain?
Because I can.
Okay.
Actually, I don't know if I can. Shh.
You do realize that anybody in the world can be watching this right now,
I'm.
except maybe in China.
Yeah.
Well, in Baltimore City, you're allowed to have, I don't know if there's a quantity, but you're allowed to have hens, no roosters.
So.
Do you have a rooster?
No, you're not allowed to have a rooster.
Okay, there we go.
4 chickens.
4 chickens in Baltimore City.
So yeah, we're allowed. I believe it's 6, but I don't know.
And you have them mainly what, for the eggs or for the pecking at the window?
Eggs. Yon Baloo, they're for eggs, not
Well,
for eating.
my older son, Andrew, has always said that he wants to get a chicken coop
Yeah.
and get eggs that are that fresh.
Oh yeah. I mean, I grab them; they're still warm. I mean, I've actually picked up a chicken to see if there's any eggs underneath there and seen it fall out. The egg.
I bet that's a sight. So what are you going to do when your hens stop laying?
Call Jan.
Is Jan expert in?
No, every time he's like, "Those tasty chickens."
Saying you're going to slaughter a chicken and actually slaughtering a chicken are two different
I
things.
grew up; we had 40 chickens.
Oh, okay. So you know about this then. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I thought maybe you were like certain relatives of mine who want to get into animal husbandry and have never done it.
Oh no. Yeah.
So chickens and squirrels, and you've adopted squirrels.
No more right now. They've chewed through enough things in my house. Yeah.
Why did you adopt squirrels? Was it because they were in distress, or was it just seem like a good idea?
Somebody brought it over. It was tiny. It was the size of my thumb, actually.
Wow.
And we just read online, like you can,
Mm-hmm.
how to raise a squirrel. And
You believe everything you read online?
oh, yeah, don't you?
And glass blowing. So
Glass blowing.
let's talk about that.
Yeah, that's fun. It's an addiction.
So when did you get into glass blowing?
3 years ago now.
3 years. And if you know Ken, you've probably seen his recent video of him making a glass cat, which you're gonna sell these glass cats at IHS
Yep.
to raise money for the International Horn Society.
Correct. Yep.
That was a very impressive video.
That actually is my teacher Matt making the cat. I'm the one filming. I'll put up one of me making it.
I am disappointed. was so good. It was very impressive. But even so, so this is something you really enjoy doing.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
So
I think it's also because my wife says ADD, and the thing about glass blowing is you have 20 seconds to get it done. So like, you come out of the fire, you got 20 seconds, and then
you've either got something nice, you've got just
or you got to go back into the fire again, and you can only do that
Takes
a few
lot of
times.
energy.
Yeah, yeah.
Holy cow! Your gas bills must be incredible when you do it. Do you have a firing kiln at home?
No. Those ovens run 24/7, and the place where I go, Diablo Glass, his gas bill $4,000 a month.
Wow, I believe it. Why do they run them 24/7?
Because if the crucible where the glass is stored gets cold again, first of all, it'll crack.
Okay.
If it's got all the glass in it. But it takes so long for the glass to get up to usable consistency. When the glass melts, it has bubbles in it that have to rise over time for the glass to become.
So when they make more glass, where they add like silica and certain. Or
No, we buy it already. They buy it
like pelletized?
pellets. Yeah, and it just melts.
Cool. So is this your next career?
I don't know what my next career will be.
Well, you now have a place in Texas as well as Jamaica Plain.
Yep.
So is there going to be the Texas wing of Pope Instrument Repair, or what's or is this only for family? I know you did it for family reasons.
Correct. Yep.
But are you going to split your time between a Boston and a Texas shop?
Eventually, yes. I mean, the place that I bought actually has a shop on the premises. So.
Really?
Yeah.
I've seen a picture of the house, like an arts and crafts style house, right?
Yeah.
Or is it?
And then there's two.
Or prairie style.
Prairie style.
Prairie style.
And there's three other buildings on the property.
Really? Nice.
Yeah. So.
Nice. That I'm jealous as heck. All right, so I think we're probably gonna wrap it up. Have you had enough?
I know.
Everybody else has
Adam is like falling asleep over here.
Adam does a great job directing us. So anyway, so I'm going to try something new with these interviews. Right?
Okay.
I'll James Lipton and Inside the Actors Studio. I'd like to ask questions.
Okay.
Okay. You've probably been reading them. You should.
No, I don't.
Okay. I can't read.
I can't see anything. It's a blue blur.
Okay. So we're gonna. So I'd like to, if this works out, we'll do this as a regular feature.
Okay.
So, what is your main instrument?
You mean what model?
Yeah, I mean all the
I
details.
play the French horn.
No, I'm. You said the F word on the live stream. No,
I have two horns. One is one of the very first Paxman triples ever made. It's engraved with Tom.
Oh no, the old man syndrome. Tom.
It was third horn in the Boston Symphony. His name went right out of my head. Anyhow.
Hey, Brian James. Nice seeing you today in Minnesota. We're in Minnesota. Let's know, Brian.
And so that's the horn I've had the longest. I love having a triple horn because when I play shows or show up to a gig where I don't know what's on the gig,
right?
It's nice to know that you got all the notes there.
All the respect in the world to you guys who go out there and sit down in front of a piece of music you've never seen before, have no idea what you're getting into, and sight read it because oftentimes you're getting into something horrible.
And my main double I made is one I made.
Oh, so you're playing your Pope double.
Yeah, except I
you dented it.
I ran over it a little bit.
You should send that to a repair technician.
Yeah, it was kind of a point of contention between my wife and I. I was backing out
Tess,
of
if you're watching, type something.
It was 4 a.m, and she was carrying the horns down, and I thought she put them in the car. And as I'm backing up, I heard something.
You didn't have a backup camera on this car.
I did.
You did?
But the case is black, and it's dark out.
Oh, yeah.
And
They're
I was
not
like,
foolproof.
Why is it beeping? And
Yeah, they're not foolproof.
so the bell was crushed, but I
St. Paul is a great place, Brian.
fixed most of the bell with a wooden spoon. So it goes back on now.
Cool. All right, so what was the instrument that got away? Gee, I wish I had my...
You know what it was?
What?
And I can't remember the name of the instrument. It was from the 1820s, and it was called like a circle phone or something. It was on eBay, and I just wanted it because it looked so cool. But you probably meant something entirely different by that, which was, what instrument did you love playing so much? I've never been like that so much. I mean, I've never had one that I hit myself over the head. Can I tell a real quick story?
Sure, tell a story.
A friend of
The only
mine,
person we're bothering is our director.
in the Cincinnati Symphony, hey Tom, called me up and we were just chatting, and he's telling me about a horn that he used to have that he loved. His favorite horn he ever had. Couldn't believe that he ever sold it. He was kicking himself over it. And as he's talking about this horn, I realized, I think I have that horn, Tom. I think I have that horn here in my shop. And he got all excited. He goes, I even remember the serial number. So he tells me the serial number. And sure enough, I had the horn in the shop.
The horn.
The horn
Yeah.
that he had fallen in love with. So he's like, send it out to me. So I send it to him. Comes back a week later. And he goes, Ken, it's kind of like an ex-girlfriend. He goes, when you're not with her, you remember all of the good things and you kind of wish you had her back and all. And he goes, and then when you're with her, you remember why you broke up in the first place.
We'll probably get some mail about that story.
Oh,
Well, I don't care. Whatever. So, okay, next question. Other than a mouthpiece, what is your favorite must-have accessory? Must-have.
horn stand.
Horn stand. What kind of horn stand do you have these days?
Whatever fits in my case. The one I have is it's called the Aroma. It's an aluminum thing, but when I'm playing, I play opera and everything. Wherever you got rest, I just like setting the horn down.
Okay.
Then I can do my crosswords.
What's your favorite piece to listen to?
Well, that depends on my mood. If I'm in a, it might be heavy metal. It might be the Rite of Spring. It might be the Enigma Variations. It could be. It depends.
It depends.
Yeah.
You're not going to give... Come on, you got to give me one. That's the
one.
rule.
Okay, one. Rite of Spring.
Rite of Spring. Okay. Do you have a riotous time with that? What is your favorite piece to play?
I love playing the Rite of Spring. I really do.
No,
it's
it's really an awesome piece. No doubt about it. Okay. And last question. Fill in the blank. As a musician, I wish I had an extra.
Case of beer.
Fair enough. That's like every musician's wish, right? Beer or wine, something like that, right? All right, I think we're going to wrap it up. If you have something to say to us in the chat, say it quickly. If not, then send us an email. You guys, YOUGUYS, at thebrassbench.com.
See you guys at Ithaca.
And Ithaca, that's right. So I think we're going to roll our music pretty soon here. Our closing music. This show has been brought to you by Brass Arts Unlimited, brass wind maintenance, modifications, and expert repair, if I do say so myself, since 1990, believe it or not. Find us on the web at www.brassarts.com. Our Facebook page, Twitter is @brass_arts. Show is also brought to you by A Minor Tune-Up Trumpet and Brass Wind Services in Wilmington, Delaware. My currently absent co-host, Chris Cromer, is the proprietor. And next week, Chris will join me and give us a roundup of what he saw at the International Trumpet Guild Conference in Anaheim, California, this past week, ending today, I think. And we'll hopefully have a little bit of the WOTB, What's on the Bench. If you want to send us a question in advance or suggest a topic, we're always listening. Send us an email. I said it before. I'll say it again. You guys, YOUGUYS, @thebrassbench.com. You can follow everything about the show at www.thebrassbench.com or on our Facebook page. You're watching our YouTube channel right now, and we hope you hit that little red button that says subscribe on the side. The show is a production of Brass Arts Unlimited and 12 Tides. Our associate producer and director is Adam Weiner. Our theme song is Ricochet, written by Carrie Turner. I'm Dave Weiner. Thanks for joining the conversation, everybody. Thanks for coming, Ken.
Don't drive like my brother.
And don't drive like my brother. We had to do that one. We'll see you next time when we meet again at the Brass Bench.